Then, and I think this morning session is extremely fun. And we have also our final presenters who's going to be still on the same theme of return of the composer performer, a changing practice of collaboration, interaction, and improvisations since 2020. I think we have Yue Zhuo together with us, and you're talking to us from Cardiff, right?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. So thank you, Kaz. Thank you so much. Thank you for creating another wonderful discussions. I think the whole plenary session this morning can already lead to another symposium in some way. So thank you so much. And thank you, Jerry, for kind of joining us together this morning. You see some of our audiences here, right? And
yeah.
Feel free to start your presentations. So go ahead.
Okay, sure. Okay. Thank you so much. And I can see that there are quite a number of audience in the room. So I'm sorry that I can only join this conference online. I really hope I could have been here. So I hope the conference has gone well so far. So now I'm based in Cardiff in UK. I'm a composer and I'm lecturing in Cardiff University. You may have already met some of my colleagues, including Monica Hanneman and Professor Penny Thornton, who's hopefully presenting in a conference. And today I'm going to sort of extend what the previous two presenters have talked about, which is about the topic is about the collaboration, interaction, and improvisation. But my focus is going to be on kind of myself and also the composers and artists around me here in Cardiff and in UK in general, what we do since COVID and now. Okay, I'm gonna share the screen. Now I need to make sure I share the sound as well, so because there are some clips I will play. So as you can see, the title, Return of the Composer Performer. I say return because it's kind of after the COVID happens. Before COVID, I think everyone was writing their own music and finding ensembles to play their music. But once COVID hits the world, I think the situation suddenly changed, and composers, performers, and even audience since then kind of had a chance to rethink about their roles in the music making. I will start my presentation with this piece. So in April 2018, organized by Cardiff University students, and the title is Celebrating Collaboration, Cardiff University Competition Showcase. As the name suggests, all competitions premiered during this concert were outcomes of composer-performer collaborative projects. The collaborative nature encouraged many composers to join the stage, including me, and I formed a percussion duo with another percussionist, David Vellacord, showing on the right on the photo. Together, we created the composition named Dorgas. Dorgas is kind of taking inspiration from Chinese gods, who, in China you can see printed on a lot of doors, guarding people's houses. So Dorgas, this piece, integrates percussion playing with a lot of vocalization, taking inspiration from our vocal profiles and the languages we speak. So both English and Chinese. This little collaboration happens not only during the creative process, but also it was integrated into the piece itself. Performance of shouts between players. specific set of rules. Game 3, and you can put it here, up here for improvisation. And the game 1 is led by one of the player. The follower has to try playing and or shouting out one of the options immediately after hearing the leaders play the pass. Game 2 is a free counterpoint between the players. Again, is another way of passing around the sounds, but it's more strictly notated. And the third game is a competition between the 2 players. So both players should play or shout the options presented on the score. And the goal is to, for each player, try to intimidate and overwhelm the other. So as you can see, the excerpt here, this is game 3, so as loud as possible. So the top 2 lines is for one player, and the next line 3, 4 is for another player. So we can see some words here like "chi." This means comes and go in Chinese, and some tremolo notes, which is for percussion. So the players have these materials and they can improvise the goal as loud as possible to intimidate each other. I don't have a video here, otherwise it will be more vivid, or what the players trying to do to actually both by creating the sounds and also visually trying to intimidate the other player. But I do have a short excerpt. Bear in mind it's going to be a little loud, so I hope I will turn the volume down a little bit. Can you all hear that clearly? Yeah, good. That's great. Music, and you can hear background. Good. For the concert, unfortunately, and also it could be very difficult to edit that because it's very loud sound. But this was the kind of the first improvisation game that I participated as a performer on stage, and this is a great experience to me. So after that, I created several pieces that involve myself as the performer, the composer performer on the stage, and the experience of creating and performing such pieces introduced me to some new creative sides. Another summarize new discipline. The new discipline functions as a way for me to connect compositions which have a wide range of disparate interests, but all share the common concern of being rooted in the physical, theatrical, and visual, as well as musical. The new discipline is located in the fact of composers being interested and willing to perform, to get their hands dirty, to do it themselves, do it immediately. So this is a quote from Jennifer Walsh during an interview. I think it summarizes what me and many other composers have been trying to do since maybe. And yeah, this interview was done in 2016, so not a long time ago. So I guess this is kind of a new trend, or at least a trend that I'm more aware of. On the right, there's a photo of me playing double bass. It's another composition I wrote, Dream Nostalgic. So I was kind of encouraged by what Walsh said here, and really trying to get my foot into being a composer performer. Of course, for another very important practical reason, we can't always find ensembles or players ourselves as composers. So it kind of becomes handy to being able to write for ourselves to play. So back then, in 2019, 2018, when I wrote that piece, Dorgas, I think being a composer performer to me is more like for a very practical reason, to be able to have my piece performed. So when I perform my own piece, I don't necessarily think about myself as another performer or like an individual who has control over what is given in a score. So as a performer myself, I kind of yield in front of me as the composer. So the relationship between me as a performer and composer back then was this kind of composer dominant, what happens in music. But since then, since the outbreak of COVID-19 in 2020, I think this thing has changed. And I guess not only to me, but to many other artists who are in this field. To my observation, the pandemic has resulted in a surge in composer-performer practice, which rapidly removed the boundaries between previously parallel forms of arts, such as the sonic and the visual, offline and online, authentic and manipulated and live and pre-recorded performances. What I found especially noteworthy was the rise of self-awareness during the pandemic. Many artists engage in recording and sharing their experience online, their emotions, their moods, what happens around them during a lockdown. This, to me, has helped people to be more self-conscious and, more importantly, socially connected during this very weird time. However, since all new works were performed online, all these videos, performances, either improvisation, meditations or short pieces, all these video performances, kind of lacks the sense of time. To me, it's very important to create a real sense of space and time for the type of interaction found in my old pieces, such as Dorgas. For them to work effectively, the performers and audience must be in the same space and experience the music at the same time. Overcoming this limited connectivity of space-time was the focus of many compositional pandemic. A recent example I came across is a composition called For Charlotte Dare. This composition and Andrew Ingham are very good friends of mine who are working in Manchester, Birmingham area. Andrew Ingham, the gentleman here, he's lecturing experimental music in Birmingham Conservatoire. This piece, in this particular piece, the video performance features the two performers sitting in two cars at two different places. Each of the performers filmed themselves breathing in and out through a balloon. This kind of action obviously implies on the breathing issue caused by COVID-19. And after filming themselves doing that for an extensive time of 20 to 30 minutes, they put the videos together to create a sense of synchronicity. So if you are interested in this performance, you can go to YouTube and search Andy Ingham's his YouTube channel. It's actually a 4-piece sequel. They put them together as one video. Back in January 2020, so earlier than their piece here, I already responded to the same creative limitation caused by the pandemic with an audiovisual piece called The Sound of Luck. Different to what Williams and Ingham did in their work, their work explores the asynchronous collaboration. So collaboration videos filmed in different time between the performers, so filmed and put together my composition explored the possibility of interacting with myself, firstly with myself, not two performers, and also in two ways. So firstly, as a performer, reacting to a composer, to what the composer has written down on the score, and secondly, as a performer to another performer, and in this case, the performer is actually myself in the video, as you can see on the screen. So I'm playing on the stage and there's myself playing in the video. So talking about the piece has 3 lines of percussive sounds produced by a pair of jiaobei. I'm not sure if you are familiar with Chinese religions, but we have these 2 small red wood block things which people throw to the ground and to kind of ask the god for luck or bad luck. So I use this tiny wooden object to make sounds. 2 of the lines on the score are pre-recorded together with the video footage featuring me playing the blocks in many different places, as you can see on the still images. This is inside the temple, outside the temple, and somewhere else in the city. I will play a short clip later, so you will have a better idea. During the performance, myself as the on-site performer essentially engage in a conversation with myself from the past in terms of both sound and the perception of space. So the audience is able to both, they are sitting in the venue and also being able to see myself traveling in the city in a lot of different spaces. The clicking sounds resulting from striking the blocks produce a rhythmic pattern, and I use that rhythm pattern to make the video to match the scene changes with the sound. So now I'm going to play just 1 minute maybe. So I will start from here. This piece. I will skip the beginning of the piece. Okay, in the interest of time, I have to pause it here, but this is also on YouTube. So if you want to check, you're most welcome to check my YouTube channel later. But as you can see, this piece, because it was composed during the COVID time, it reflects on the situation, and I think it's a very important piece to me because it reflects on the creative situation faced by me and I guess for many artists during the COVID time, because basically you see the piece is composed and filmed all by myself, and it featured myself playing the piece. So after that, I composed a lot of different pieces using putting together the audio and visual, and I try to find opportunities to play to perform them live, but unfortunately, many of these pieces have to go onto YouTube and for a so-called premiere. But of course, that's not very ideal. Luckily, after the second half of 2021, so almost 1.5 years after 2020, it seemed that COVID-19 started to yield and the threat is now lower. Music creators since then enjoy freedom much closer to what they got pre-pandemic, though I would argue that our creative mindsets have changed significantly and in a irreversible fashion. On the one hand, during the creative process, it can be argued that visual presence has become an important factor if one chooses to incorporate it into their works. On the other hand, during the production process, by which I mean the recording and filming of the final work, much more effort has been put into making sure the resulting work is up to an online publishable level of quality. In the past, works to such a standard, so to be able to publish online, might require more time and effort from a larger production team. By that, I would guess maybe more than 5 or even 10 people. But since 2020, however, it has become common for the same amount of work by a much smaller number of people, including, if not only, the composer, him or herself. The creation and production of my work, oh, by the way, another example of me filming myself, introducing my work online for a premiere somewhere else in the world. So that was really common, very common practice since then. So everyone becomes a YouTuber. The creation and production of my work, the final work I'm going to introduce today, is the Dream Pavilion by the Water. And its creation will reflect this changing practice of being a composer, performer, and also how our music now care more about the visual presence. This piece is for mezzo-soprano and piano, and it was originally written in late 2019. It was planned for a live concert in spring 2020, but obviously the concert was cancelled. The original music was designed for easy sight reading and quick realization in as few rehearsals as possible. This is a very common practice. I don't know in Thailand, but certainly in UK, everything happens so fast. So as composers, we have to consider about this, and we have to make sure performers will be confident in very short notice to play a piece. So for that reason, most parts of the music was strictly notated, even though some degrees of improvisatory freedom, similar to that in Dogas, which I just shown, was given. After the COVID-19 outbreak, the original concert was postponed, as well as the work's realization. It was until more than a year later, in the summer of 2021, that I started the project with my colleague Yue Zhuo, mezzo-soprano. My decision to take the pianist role was at first unintentional. Since it was still not ideal at the time to meet in person for rehearsals, I recorded the piano part for Yue Zhuo to practice her singing. During this process, the singer Yue Zhuo started to ask questions about details of the score and also expressing her opinions on how the piano should interact with the voice. Everything happened remotely. In order to respond to her queries, I not only needed to think as a composer, so how to explain my own score, but also as the pianist who actually made the piano recording. The fact that our conversation was not in time, usually, email exchanges, over days, this time gave us more room to digest our own opinions and think more carefully about our own preferences on the music. Arguably, this process, with no intention, it encouraged a more balanced creative relationship between the two performers, and also between my composer self and the performance self. So I had more time to think both as a composer and performer about this piece. My collaboration with the singer in some substantial changes to final product, also find on YouTube. Firstly, would no longer be premiered live in a concert venue. We decided to put it onto YouTube. This decision to think more about visual is imagined as in which the man is sitting. The poem, as in with interested in the original rhyme, but find us lost in the field of lotus. This kind of analogy of piano as the boat transform the instrument into a space for the performers to collaborate. The two performers collaborate in a much more intimate way than in what I wrote before for the original version. In the beginning, the score instructs the soprano to press the sustain pedal while the pianist swipe the string inside the piano. So the singer actually helped the pianist to press the sustain pedal with her left foot, so the pianist can move freely to swipe the strings. Since this collaborative action occurs at the beginning, it helps the piece to establish an interactive nature. There are more features suggesting the boat analogy, which I don't have time to cover here. But I will talk very quickly about other things which help to raise the level of interaction. So there are actions that help to blur the roles between the players. At the beginning, the pianist vocalizes first. So rather than the singer starts singing right at the beginning, it's actually the pianist who make a sound first. This is followed by the mezzo-soprano who plays the piano, plays the piano. So the mezzo-soprano plays the same notes. Da, 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 da. So this really breaks down the kind of two players. Another thing about notation as well, just a clear distinction between the leader and follower, which traditional convention. The blurring of the boundary between singer and pianist helps the both players to gain equal control of the creative outcomes. One of the most interesting collaboration was in the score of the new interactive relationship moments. We changed a lot of things. Wanted to find a way to. For that, the singer Yue Zhuo and I system of arrow. The arrow specify the direction of communication, while the freestanding notes do not require accurate entries. So you can see that if the arrow is pointing up, then the pianist is giving a signal to the soprano and vice versa. And for this non-arrow indicated parts, it's more traditional, more conventional improvisatory passages. This notation method allows the performers to control the pace and manner of their interaction in an organized yet flexible way. On the other hand, exact lengths of time are required occasionally in the work. So sometimes I put 3 seconds, 4 seconds, and so on and so on. So to kind of gain some control as the composer. Other than that, the tempo has been kept in determinate. Some rooms for improvisation, since the pitches, lyrics, and direction of developments. So it's a determined piece. I try to leave some room for the performers. I don't think I actually have time to play, but it's on YouTube, and also I noticed that it's in the program, the conference program. The YouTube link. So if you are interested, you're more than welcome to check this piece later. So as you can see, and there's some swiping the string while the soprano pressed the sustain pedal, and also later in the piece, the soprano moved a piano as well by the end. So what the pianists do in the beginning. So finally, some reflections and conclusion. During the COVID-19 pandemic, musicians and artists were to adapt, isolate. As the pandemic gradually retreated from newspaper headlines, it has, however, left us with permanent impacts on our creative mindset and working process. No matter if we had decided to embrace such change or not, in a way, the pandemic has led us to a whole new selection of creative possibility. This is what Williams and Ingermill wrote in the program notes of, I think, what many have found to the project extension of our own methodology, despite not being able to work other works, is a natural consequence of our chaotic simultaneity, now asynchronous and entirely separate. So, suggestion of all the different points hinted at by the shifting time periods and the blurring of separation and closeness has made this possible for us to create works, visual notes, and so on and so on. Finally, the performer is background. I think, in a way, the combined effect of pandemic and technology has been a further removal of the single authorship to a piece of music of art. Thus, to be a composer performer since 2020 no longer means to self-own the piece. So I wrote the piece and I performed the piece. The case anymore since 2020. On the contrary, a self-performed work or work involving the composer on stage created open invitation to both the performers and the audience to participate in the creative and interpreting process. So, a temporary conclusion, to be a composer's performer since 2020, maybe it means more than ever a focus done to produce music, to collaborate with others on collaboration, interaction, rather than claiming ownership of a piece of music. Thank you so much. That's it.
Thank you, Jerry, for your wonderful presentation. Actually, your last question is not just about what does it mean to be a composer performer. After 2020 is actually how to be a musician, isn't it? I think a lot of presentation, a lot of examples that you've been giving us is really to integrate all these roles together, and I really like of what you did, especially seeing this a little too red piece falling down the stair, and you were chasing it as part of the music. It's really wonderful. Also to bridge between channels, playing also the music. So I think you completely of who's doing just kind of like merge together all the roles of being just musicians and presenting sound to people, to audiences. So congratulations on that. And I think you brought that, to me an attention to the visual presentations of the work. I can see that the video and all this kind of things has become part of your musical materials. I mean, do you think that our musical language is now expanding, or is it always there already from the beginning that all these, the costume, the colors, the editing, and all these things becoming part of the scores or becoming part of the music making? I'm just kind of wondering what you think about that. I mean, should we consider it as a kind of new musical materials, or what's your opinion?
I think definitely it has become a new music material for a lot of composers, a lot of colleagues around me now think more than ever before about this, about their front of a screen. This makes it easy. Now we are able to all different kinds of sense and even senses, for example, the smells. You know, somebody there's a work by a friend of mine who basically asked the performer to brew a cup of coffee on the stage. So yeah, this kind of thing really becomes kind of popular nowadays since COVID. Yeah, for that piece, that composer was trying to kind of recreate this kind of experience of isolated, individual in a room, with his or her coffee pot and so I think, yeah, COVID is strange, but it really, bring us to focus more on all these kind of different, senses and how we can incorporate in creation. It's not anymore as just decorative things. The visual thing is not only just a film, played in the background, but actively participating the creative, process, the expression. Yeah.
I think possibly it's already the end of background things era, isn't it? Like the tests, the flavors, the architecture, the space is becoming more and more as a foreground, the co-player together with the performance. Like, and composers no longer a background to performers no longer a background to composer, those kind of thing. And maybe do we have any kind of comments from our friends here on here? Okay, so we actually have a lot of people around. I'm not sure if you can see them. Okay. If our team can pass on, just one moment. I show you. Yeah, can you pass on?
Where sit down here in a hot chair. Hello, Jerry. Thank you very much.
Hi.
Yes, just one thought I wanted to share with everybody, and then I've got a question for you. I think, COVID, Zoom made our world two-dimensional. So the 3-dimension turned into two dimensions because we're all on screen. So I'm not surprised that sort of creative minds try to add other dimensions to composition. So that makes entire sense to me. We're missing something, trying to replace it by something else. But my question is, you talked about the post-COVID or composer, musician. How have audiences, how have listeners changed? Can you talk about that? What's the engagement with your composition on YouTube? Is that also a new world for those who are recipients of music?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, and I think it's an ongoing question. Afraid I don't have a very solid answer to that as well. And also, I think we write contemporary music, and we don't have a very large audience, in the first place. So the sample is quite small. Yeah, I mean the audience. You don't see the audience normally. They sometimes post comments under your YouTube page, or thumb up, or even thumb down. But luckily YouTube has taken it off recently. So the basic reactions from the audience. I'm also actually thinking about another interesting trend, which is live what's the word, streaming of music. And I don't know other platforms, but in China there are many different platforms where artists can actually improvise in front of a live audience. And so that's a more interesting scenario, and maybe worth researching as well, because then you can see live comments from the audience, and somebody will send you some heart, send you like a rocket or any kind of symbols to kind of encourage you to do more. So I think in a way, composer performers or just basically musicians, they have to adapt to this kind of new experience with the audience, the new way to interact with the audience. And also audience has more than ever the power to actually express during while the music making, whether they like the music or not like the music. rather than just sitting there, you know, in a concert venue. So that's kind of interesting, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, and I've seen you do that very well in our open days. When the candidate, the applicants come in, Jerry asks them to create a graphic composition, and then he performs them live on stage spontaneously, and that's so impressive. And I love that element when you turn into the performer of something that the audience is just composed. So I think this sort of interaction is actually quite fun and gets people engaged. So I wanted to share that with everybody. I think that's a great approach. Thanks, Jerry.
It's great. Yeah.
I think it's not only the ideas of musical materials, but the visuals are one. The audience has to be redefined. As you say, it has kind of like life doesn't mean that you have to be in the same physical space anymore. You can be on a completely different space, or live in a way that you yourself performing with yourself that was alive before, like maybe 2 days before and edited into those kind of things. So I think definitely the sense of time and place is completely changed in this time, right?
For Jerry, it's very early in the morning. That's another sense of
yeah, another sense of time. Yeah.
He got up very early. Yes.
I wasn't sure geographically.
Oh,
thank you so much.
It's fine. It's fine. Yeah. But hopefully, yeah, I really hope next year I can join you. Yeah, in person.
It's really nice. So I think we are. Thank you, Jerry. I think we can continue this discussion. I think it does look like another year theme already. I'm kind of like on the final days of the symposium. This is time to figuring out what to do next. So thank you so much, Jerry, for a wonderful performance of these pieces, and also being live as a kind of part of your concert here as well. So thank you so much. And then
thank you, Kapun Ka.
See you next year.